It's.
Are you rolling?
I think so. Yeah.
It'll go viral, I'm sure.
We've had enough viruses.
Enough viral. Well, it happens to flops once in a while. Let's get some light. This is so wonderful because I haven't had a captive audience for so long. And I'm hungered for it. It's a very short, it's a short author's note. It's called for the trilogy of the 3 novels previously published, but changed, each one changed. And that's, the author's note will go on to explain how and what how everything is linked thematically and with the psychology of characters. To anticipate, but this is not about that. It's the genesis of the 3 novels. Good Lord, we got the right book. Oh, here we go. Sorry. As soon as I graduated from college in 1951, I enlisted as a private in the United States Army and completed basic training that summer in the pressure cooker heat of Camp Gordon, Georgia. I expected to be sent to the COMZ, the combat zone, in Korea. I was, however, in military speak, frozen as a weapons instructor with a MOS, military occupation specialty, in bayonets and hand grenades. In other words, a major in English and philosophy at Yale entitled me to teach recruits how to throw a hand grenade and stick bayonets in straw dummies. In order to ginger up martial prowess in several hundred recruits, I took special care to explain to them that once the pin is pulled from a grenade, it is armed and will explode in 4 seconds. All my, quote, students had to do then was show up at the firing range, stand facing me in a sandbagged pit, and obey an officer's orders to pull the pin, prepare to throw, and throw as far away from us as possible into the land hallowed by Gone with the Wind. Out on the firing range one morning, a recruit dropped his live grenade at my feet. I picked up our death gadget, threw a Hail Mary pass, and numbed consciousness as the recruit jumped out of the pit and another recruit jumped in, grenade in hand. "What do I do now, Sergeant?" he asked with a furrowed brow. I wasn't a sergeant. I couldn't manage to eat chow in the mess that night. My hands were trembling with an exquisite kind of palsy. Call it shell shock or post-traumatic stress disorder, but I needed an honorable discharge, a beer, and a cigarette. I went to a club on base, drank 5 or 6 bottles of Miller High Life, and smoked at least half a pack of Luckies. The trembling ceased fire. I might add that I had seldom, until I joined the Army, been bibulous or inhaled smoke enough to cure a slice of bacon. On my way back to barracks, I heard a man moaning with pain as if he had been shot. I ran to the sidewalk where he lay crumpled. He had silver bars on his shoulder. "Can I help you, Captain, sir?" "It's my prostate," he howled. "Should I find an MP, sir?" "Hell no, boy, it's my prostate." "What happened, sir?" After prolonged howling and groaning, Captain Prostate explained what had happened. He had visited a prostitute in Augusta and snatched extra helpings of sex. Although I was sometimes guilty of harboring uncharitable feelings towards such blockheads, I could not help but feel sorry for this sad man, a real hero, a vet, a brother in the throes of gratuitous suffering. I helped him to his feet and supported him, still groaning, to his BOQ, Bachelor Officer Quarters. As a weapons instructor, I had never fired a gun in my life. I was suddenly invited by the Pentagon to go TDY, temporary duty, to observe the testing of an atomic bomb in Nevada. I flew in a plane, a rented Flying Tiger Lines prop job, for the first time, and encountered enough turbulence to necessitate an emergency landing in Oklahoma City and to give the pilot time to sober up. We arrived in Las Vegas at midnight and could see a colossal neon-lit cowboy whose "howdy, folks" smile welcomed suckers to come and lose their money, minds, and virginity. We passengers smuggled in and forbidden entry to Sin City for security reasons. Were furtively trundled by bus some 70 or more miles of lunar landscape to a large tent camp codenamed Desert Rock. Howdy, folks. The shot, we learned, had been delayed because negative downwind conditions might nuke Utah out of existence. Rumor had it that bored senior grade officers were wandering away from camp and into the desert, especially at night when the temperature dropped below ice cream. We were constantly awakened by the whop, whop sound of helicopters, no doubt on their way to rescue blockheads before they were captured by the communists who, of course, surrounded us. Something, of course, had to be done. So, lo, a convoy of trucks, like a Ringling Brothers entourage, emerged from a distant mirage and threaded its way towards the camp. Upon arrival, the trucks turned out not to be loaded with caged animals and depressed clowns. Lost my place. depressed clowns, but with cartons full of whiskey bottles. These were soon distributed to all and sundry, regardless of rank. I remember tucking a bottle under my arm, retreating to my tent, and singing, "Goodbye, Maria, I'm off to Korea," as the helicopters whopped overhead, searching for the lost. At 0200 hours on 29 October 1951, I dressed and fatigued, helmet liner, and a canteen full of whiskey. After chowing down, I boarded a troop carrier with other guinea pigs, all strangely quiet and morose, and eventually found myself seated on a barren hill at Yucca Flats, about 6 miles from ground zero. With Hiroshima on my mind, I thought the bomb might be released upon zero from a bomber, but on second thought I could make out evidence of pandemonium, Milton's abode of all demons. It was a tower at zero. Electric lights were twinkling like lightning bugs around the tower, like a matchstick, useful for lighting cigarettes. Finally, a splinter of sunlight pierced the eastern horizon. The countdown began. Someone with the voice of an Old Testament prophet started blurting out over a loudspeaker with a kind of apocalyptic basso profundo numbers that plummeted towards the earth. I turned my eyes away from zero and in the direction of invisible Hollywood, which suddenly represented reality. Then it happened. Oxyacetylene torches, billions, seemed to have been twitched on simultaneously. I counted to 1005, turned around, and swam my eyes towards zero. It was gone. Where it had been was the fireball, a meteor from hell, spitting 4th of July rockets. All, weirdly, was silent. But suddenly the blast hit my ears, a Krakatoa-class noise accompanied by a tsunami of heat. I was sunburned in a few seconds. Hiroshima felt palpably present, and yet, curiously, I was shielded from guilt. Our nicely toasted contingent from Georgia had been booked to cross the continent by train, Pullman coaches attached. At various times, attached. In addition, our brass laid in a supply of leftover cartons of whiskey. For 4 days and nights, I had R&R, rest and recreation, in a private berth, clambering out of which only to have meals in a diner where strange people called civilians stared with resentment at our uniforms. All I had to do in my berth was sleep, smoke, sip whiskey, and write. Me and Winston Churchill. Now, for the first time in months, I felt free enough to do what military life discouraged: some thinking. Humankind lived in a new dimension of history. We had Damoclean swords hanging over us. We could wrap the planet in a shroud. On the other hand, I believe that global awareness of a new world of consciousness was working in the spiritual as well as in the material sphere. That was the genesis of Age of Atoms.
Very nice, Dave.
Now, a piece of history you might only have had pieces of.
Yeah. Never heard the whole story.
That was, it really happened. And only a visitor, only recently, I forget who it was, but